So you mentioned some guys that to let walk. There are a couple of guys that I think are for sure going to be, aren't going to be with the team next year. K'Wan Williams is, getting up there as far as age for a cornerback, and I think that his performance late in the season and into the playoffs left a lot to be like needed. Like he left a lot on the table, I believe. So I think he's going to be somebody that the 49ers let walk so they could get a little bit younger at that position. And then another big one is Jaquasky Tart. I think he's amazing. He's somebody who's one of my favorite players on the team. But it looks like all indications are he's going to not be with the team next year just because he's looking to get paid. And I just think the 49ers won't be able to afford him based off of his age, injury history, and just other needs on the team. So with those two, let's assume that those two aren't coming back, Rohan. What are some solutions for the 49ers to replace these two players who obviously contributed a lot over their tenure with the 49ers? Are there solutions already on the team, or are there solutions that they have to get through the draft or free agency?
I think you can make the argument for both. I personally don't think the solution is on the team yet because if you think the solution's on the team, you're likely talking about Talanoa Hufanga, who slides in at the safety position, and then also Diamador Lenore, who slides in at slot corner. I thought Lenore was drafted last season for the purpose of being the slot corner in 2022, but I also think that a team with a championship window shouldn't just relegate to developing talent when shouldn't just relegate to developing talent as their only
Option.
move. Yeah, option. There you go. Instead, I do think that they should provide some competition at the slot corner position, or even give Lenore another year to develop because he wasn't as stout of a run defender as K'Wan Williams was, which was the main value that Williams brought to this defense in terms of his abilities on the field. So I think that you can definitely bring in competition through free agency because, as usual, the cornerback pool is fairly loaded. And the good thing for the 49ers is the cornerback pool has a lot of veterans. And on a team that probably is going to be one of the younger teams in terms of age on that secondary, you definitely could bring back a guy like Jason Verrett, who served as a veteran over the last 2 years. Or you can bring in other veterans like Chris Harris Jr., who probably has had the 49ers price tag. But guys that I like were Casey Hayward, Desmond King, different players who have had experience both either inside or outside, but also had a lot of experience in the NFL that could help these young guys like an Avery Thomas, like a Diamador Lenore, like a Hufanga. So I do think that free agency could be a move for the draft in terms of cornerback. But elsewhere, looking at safety, while I don't necessarily think that Tart is fully gone yet, if we're looking at his replacement, I do think that the 49ers probably draft safety should Tart leave, probably with their first pick. I do think that there is a fairly talented safety pool this year in the draft, and I don't think that they likely look to the free agent market kind of like to find out who can be their next safety in this rotation. When you look at Talanoa Hufanga, I think that Talanoa Hufanga serves better as a box safety and a special teams guy rather than an everyday starter at the safety position. I don't think that his coverage skills were nearly as good as Jaquasky Tart's were, but I do think that if the 49ers wanted, they could get a guy like a Terrell Edmonds, maybe, like a Jabril Peppers, maybe, or some valuable contributors like that. That could help in their safety rotation while also drafting a guy who's primarily a coverage type of safety in the draft.
Yeah, and I mean, Tavon Moore is out there too. He's been somebody who's played with the team. I know he's been injured this past season, and I'm a little bit skeptical about bringing back injury-prone players with the 49ers. I just think that's been the Achilles heel a lot for the team over this tenure. So, I mean, even a guy like Verrett, even though I love him as a player, he just can't stay healthy. So I don't know if you take up another roster spot with him. Maybe if he's extremely cheap, but I don't know. Swan Song, thanks for joining in, my guy. Louis Cine, I don't really know who he is. I'm assuming he's a safety that's in the draft class right now.
I think he's safety from Georgia.
Yeah,
he's a fairly solid safety for sure.
Yeah, I've been seeing, obviously there's the report from ESPN talking about Jalen Petrie out of Baylor, who's probably going to be there. I've looked at tape on him. I think he could be good. It's just going to be interesting because I think that I'm. I think that I think that Mosley and Ambry Thomas are our corners as far as the side on the outside for the foreseeable future. They're both young. I think they both play a aggressive style of corner with their press. Man, they could play man, they could play zone, and they're very solid at tackling, which are all things that are asked for out of this cornerback position. So I would want to bring in somebody who is specific to that slot role versus somebody who can compete, like not necessarily can compete, but who's more accustomed to the outside role, just because I want those two to be our outside corners, especially with Ambry Thomas being so young and, playing as well as he did in the tail end of the season. I just think he could be, a beast if given the right opportunity. So that's more what I'm looking for. If they draft somebody, great. If they bring somebody through the draft, that's great. If they're developing Lenoir to be that guy, obviously he showed a lot of signs of somebody who can be a good player, does have the ability to. He just needs to find that consistency. I think Tart's going to be the bigger loss just because of how well him and Ward play together. And I mean, a lot of people, focus on Tart dropping that interception against the Rams. But if you focus on, the week before against Green Bay, where he made that, touchdown saving tackle to Aaron Jones after he, was pretty much was about to house it if it wasn't for Tart. He's been a very productive player. I just think he's going to demand too much money, and there's going to be a lot of competition for him. So I think the 49ers are just going to have to let him walk.
Yeah, good point. Definitely a solid point there. Talking about other potential kind of guys, I mean, the 49ers, they haven't obviously divested a lot into this secondary in terms of financial ways. Like a lot of guys want a guy like J.C. Jackson for the 49ers to go out and sign. I personally just don't think it's viable because that's not how this team is built. They're always built through the defensive line. It's more likely that they try and sign an edge rusher alongside Nick Bosa than they try and sign a guy like J.C. Jackson. So instead, I do think that the veteran market likely is the better option should they choose to try and upgrade at cornerback, specifically slot corner this season or this offseason. I do think that a veteran option would be solid, a fairly cheap option that provides depth, that also provides leadership to the young guys. And yeah, I agree that you roll out Mosley and Ambry Thomas on the outside next season.